when I'm thinking about Montauk, when I'm thinking about Plum Island, I'm thinking about MK Ultra. Also, Operation Paperclip Nazi started MK Ultra with a Jewish man from Brooklyn. It was a really nice way to come together and then just screw everyone, with acid that was made by the government, Eli Lilly, and then those people went on to make SSRIs. That's a conversation from another day. But like, again, for anyone who thinks what we're talking about with Montauk Project is too crazy or conspiratorial, we also had MK Ultra people in the army trying to stop a goat's heart with their brains. The men who stare at goats, right?
The men who stare at goats, exactly.
And then if you want to bring up some of those
plenty of remote viewing too. I mean, those are all declassified.
Exactly.
And so yeah, it's not hard to imagine that the most advanced radar system in the world at the time that they were doing these experiments, they would try to potentially amplify whatever it was that they were doing with their psychics.
And people will try, when they hear this Montauk Project story, they like to discredit it by saying that the author of the series you were talking about, he says it's either fiction or nonfiction.
Yes, that's what it says right in the beginning.
What do you make of that?
Well, I think there's one of two options. Number one, the guy is absolutely crazy, which appears to be the case. That also wouldn't be surprising if you were a subject of these experiments. So you don't exactly expect that the guy has all his marbles if he's actually any of the stuff that he's saying is true. But then also secondarily, it could be like an AstroTurf situation where they put the craziest version of the theory out there to make the whole thing look crazy.
Right.
But there are definitely nuggets in there where you're like, yeah, I mean, it's not far-fetched to think that they were using that base for something beyond just a decommissioned artillery base.
No. And knowing like most of the things we just referenced, for those who've gone down the MK Ultra rabbit hole, the sea spray rabbit hole, all this stuff, paperclip and everything that came out of it, our government does that. And I have a few articles I was just going to read from really quickly, because the scariest thing to me about all this is that our government's so willing to test on children. Which is, that's Stranger Things, that's Montauk Project. So I'm just going to read a few, I'll just read it from some of this. So this is from truthout.org, and I'll just say up front, Truth Out is like a progressive, insane publication. But this story is just about kids who are getting experimented on. So I'm just going to read from some of this. Bobby is 7 years old, but this is not the first time he has been subjected to electroshock. It's his third time. In all, over the next year, Bobby will experience 8 electroshock sessions. Placed on the examining table, he is held down by 2 male attendants, while the physicians place a solution on his temples. Bobby struggles with the 2 men holding him down, but his efforts are useless. He cries out and tries to pull away. One of the attendants tries to force a thick wedge of rubber into his mouth. He turns his head sharply away and cries out, "Let me go, please." I won't go on further because it just gets dark. You can look it up at truthout.org. What's the title of this one, Alex? The Hidden Tragedy of the CIA's Experiments on Children. I just want to get through some of these. There's more I want to talk about with Richie, but here's from CBS, one of the most trusted publications in the world. But this story is fascinating to me. And so this one's called New Book Documents Cold War Experiments on Kids. A half century later, Charlie Dyer still vividly remembers the day he was picked to join the Fernald Science Club. It was 1954, which is, I guess, like a year, or 10 years after Philadelphia Project. It was 1954, and at 14, he had already spent nearly half his life in a succession of Massachusetts institutions that unflinchingly labeled kids like him morons. Morons is in quotes. But in his new place, the Fernald State, was that? Oh, sorry. The Fernald State School in Waltham seemed like it might be different. They picked some of the oldest guys and asked us if we wanted to be in this club, Dyer, 72, said in an interview from his home in Watertown, Massachusetts. We all got together and decided, why not? We'll get time off the grounds. The boys were promised presents, outings to the seashore, trips to Fenway Park, and extra helpings of oatmeal. It was like Christmas, Dyer recalled. Red Sox games, parties. I got a Mickey Mouse watch that I still have. It took decades before Dyer learned that he and the boys he still considers brothers were little more than guinea pigs. A state task force in 1994 found Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where back at MIT, scientists fed the unwitting boys radioactive oatmeal and milk for a Quaker Oats nutrition study. All right, we can stop there. That's insane. And I think we have one more, right? I won't even read it, but this one's about government testing AIDS drugs on foster children. And this one's from, what was it, NBC or something? Mm-hmm. All I'm saying is these people do it all the time. By these people, I mean our crazy government. Nothing's off bounds, especially not the innocence of children, which is what is part of the Montauk Project and what they said was going on out there. So that stuff is rather haunting to me.
Yeah, haunting to say the least. And that's one of the other things one of the other claims that's made in the book is that the government guys who were running the base would abuse the kids in order to break them down psychologically and mold them into the psychics that they wanted them to be.
Right.
And I won't get into the gory details of that, but yeah, pinning them down and doing even worse stuff.
Yeah, it's insane, which is kind of goes back to the Stranger Things thing too, with what they were doing to what's her name, 11, freaking around.
Yeah, and that room that I saw in Stranger Things, there is a room that looks very similar to the room that was, and by the time I got there, it was like graffiti, pretty heavily graffitied. But there's a video on YouTube. It's the same guys who Peter Moon, I think, is one of the guys who helped write the book, but they went out to the base this is like the early 90s, and the paint was a lot fresher, and it's just like haunting.
That is insane. And now it just makes you think, what do you think they're doing now?
Yeah, that's a terrifying question. And where are they doing it is the other question. Like, reports that we have all these biolabs in Ukraine.
Dude, we have biolabs all across this country.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's 100. I could be wrong on the number, but last I checked, I think there's 100. Little ones, bigger ones. You mentioned earlier that the Plum Island had leaks, right?
Yeah, it did. Foot and mouth. Then there was another one. There's two very like public leaks where they had to tell the public, hey, bad thing happened over here.
Right.
And in one of the cases, it was like a really bad storm that knocked out the power, and then the generator failed, and so all the stuff melted and escaped.
Insane. The CDC has had leaks. Our very own CDC. I think it was the CDC that even used duct tape to seal some doors.
Listen, there was no gain of function taking place. Absolutely never happened. I got pardoned for no reason.
No. Yeah, he's the most innocent person alive. Totally innocent man. I just think, like, how much of what we get sick from today is just released from a lab?
Yeah.
It's got to be a lot.
And it's crazy too, like when I was born in 89, and like, not turning this into, a conversation about pharmaceuticals, but if you look at the number of pharmaceuticals that are on the schedule for a kid today, it's not like 10, 20, it's like 60 by the time they're 2.5 years old. And not to mention the degree to which the entire population is now on one form of pharmaceutical or another. You talked about SSRIs.
Yep. It's really scary. For those who don't know, I said it quickly. I'll say it again. Our government hired Eli Lilly to create all the LSD for the MK Ultra projects because they were trying to create super soldiers, kind of like Manchurian candidates, to carry out things, among other things. They were also testing to see how we could wipe out a brain. But so Eli Lilly did go on to then make SSRIs, and the theory there, a lot of people think about it, RFK Jr.'s even talked about it, is that there's a lot of these people who just go a little insane, a lot of it insane, and become mass shooters are on SSRIs.
Yeah.
It's a weird connection, I think it's one worth looking into, and it's scary that we're a country that's hopped up on lots of different medicines, which is why I think the whole country is a Montauk Project. Like, we are stuck in this horrible type of situation where it's like everything happening at once, the culmination of it, social media helping shape a narrative, the way we all talk about the drones. There's a drone story, there's a UFO discovery story, the egg UFO, and then who knows what's in we know what's in our food and our water, what's in the medicines you take, and how that must affect the psyche of a country. I think it's pretty alarming, and I hope that kind of stops with RFK Jr. Controlling things now where he's at. So we'll see.
Yeah, being in DC, that the pharmaceutical lobby
They're
is
strong.
like it's the most powerful lobby in DC.
Really.
And you know, you saw Trump meet with the Pfizer. He announced the Pfizer CEO the other day, and everybody booed him. So I think people are actually like waking up to kind of what's going on.
I hope so.
Some positive news.
I hope so.